One-sentence introduction. After coming back from the Xiuzhen World, I went back to my hometown to plant land and sell vegetables live. Song Tan, who failed to complete the Golden Pill crossing, returned to modern times and found himself at the scene of a series of car accidents. He relied on his benefactor to save his life and narrowly escaped death. After waking up, the fairy Song Tan played with her phone. I love this world. Song Tan, a social animal who stared blankly at the computer and made PPTs, said. Destroy this world. It is impossible to do PPT. You can only go back to your hometown to farm like this. Relying on his own cultivation experience, Song Tan created landscapes and countryside, harvested wild vegetables, farmhouse meals, pinched cucumbers, started live broadcasts, and sold mountain treasures until one day, she saw her life-saving benefactor. The man whose half-face was blown up while rescuing her. Song Tan looked at the other person's wide shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs, and then at the other half of their handsome face. Thinking of his 2 lifetimes as a single dog, he thought to himself. I heard that the double cultivation secret technique of the Xiuzhen sect can nourish the appearance, but I don't know, pure farming, really farming kind, with a male lead, not many scenes, keywords of the novel. Song Tan Chronicles no pop-ups, Song Tan Chronicles TXT complete collection download, Song Tan Chronicles latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. I have returned from the cultivation world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. I have returned from the cultivation world. The back mountain leads to the peak of the moon. Thunder clouds gather, and the sound of authority bursts forth. Song Tan, the spiritual cultivator of the water and wood double spiritual roots of the heavenly sect in the Xiuzhen realm, has been planting spirits in the back mountain for 100 years, and finally has the opportunity to break through. However, I didn't expect the thunder robbery to be so violent when I was taking the pill. My body was shattered by the thunder robbery, and even my soul was shattered. In a hazy moment, Song Tan saw countless familiar and unfamiliar scenes before his body passed away. A dozen or so cars flipped horizontally and vertically, forming a pile. Collision, pain, crying. The overturned car, the oil gradually winding out on the bridge deck. Surrounded by anxious people patting the car window, her eyes were covered in a layer of blood, unable to move or speak. Hello, 120. Ninghai Bridge serial accident. Bang. First, lift the driver out, there's still some air left. The girl's leg is stuck. Someone can help. Hurry up, there's an oil leak, be careful not to explode. Song Tan looked at everything in confusion, without any reaction for a moment. Is this a demon in his heart? But strangely enough, there is a girl in the car, firmly holding on to her mind. However, the other party's head was shattered and blood was flowing. They had slowly closed their eyes and their breath was weak. Song Tan could already see that the spiritual light on her body had dissipated. Her soul was about to dissipate. In the next moment, Song Tan felt pulled by something, and his shattered soul suddenly sank. In a daze, a girl with snow-white skin and bright black pupils looked at her, her eyes filled with joy and comfort. You're back. What does it mean? Song Tan was about to ask, but suddenly saw her soul light rushing towards her shattered soul, and then tightly fused together. Past life, present life she remembered. This is not a heart demon. But I came back by myself. Returning from the realm of cultivation to the moment when I am about to die in modern times. This is my past life. She was originally Song Tan, who died in a car accident and then lost her memory and came to the Xiuzhen realm. She became a girl from a mountain village and worked hard to cultivate before entering the Wentian sect. For over 100 years, I continued to practice continuously, just to break through and protect myself in the crisis-ridden cultivation world she is Song Tan. However, the impact ahead was too severe, causing unbearable pain to her body. In her previous life, she died in this car accident. No. Song Tan struggled to activate the scarce spiritual energy around him, striving to repair his body. The thin spiritual energy struggles to circulate within the body, struggling to repair damaged internal organs and body. When she tried her best to open her blood-blurred eyes, she saw a handsome yet bulging face that belonged exclusively to men. Being too close, Song Tan could even see his dark brown eyes and particularly thick eyelashes. Especially the small black mole on the forehead, it looks impartial and just right. The other party gritted their teeth, but still struggled to make a sound. Don't be afraid. I'll pull you out now. Someone behind shouted hoarsely, Go, it's on fire, it's on fire. Hold on. The man holding her drank in a low voice, and the sweat on his forehead and cheeks slid down his chin, dripping onto Song Tan's face. The body was pulled forward with more and more force, and pain spread from all four limbs and bones. Even the soul seemed to be tightly pulled and fused with this body. The next moment. Exploded. The screams around me grew even more terrifying. Bang! Her heavy body was thrown out heavily, and she trembled all over. At this moment, she was already unconscious. When he woke up again, 3 heads popped out of the bed, led by a middle-aged doctor with sparse hair but clear eyes. How do you feel now? Song Tan's gaze slid down onto the sign on his chest, a large head photo of an off-grid divine transmission, the First People's Hospital of Ning Province attending physician. Zhang Yuan. She stared at the sign in a daze, familiar memories constantly flowing in her mind. At this moment, she was both a cultivator Song Tan and an ordinary person Song Tan. Soul fusion, past and present, for over 100 years, she finally returned. The smell of hospital disinfectant filled all directions, and her spiritual energy was as scarce as a thread. With a thought, she silently recited the cultivation method, and after running for half a day, she had 2 strands of spiritual energy, slowly swimming over. Song Tan breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he could cultivate. Being able to cultivate can protect oneself, not to mention anything else. Planting spirits for over 100 years can support oneself without any problem. Looking at the doctor waiting for her answer, Song Tan opened his mouth and said in a somewhat unfamiliar tone. Shang. It's okay. The intern on the left obediently presented the medical record book, while the newly appointed attending doctor waved his arms vigorously, imitating the writing of heavenly books by his seniors, while also smiling with extra affinity. Our examination results are also very good, girl, you are lucky. In a series of car accidents, you have a cut on your head and may have a slight concussion, but everything else is good. After observing for 1 or 2 more days, you will be discharged from the hospital. However, the scene was too chaotic. The phone in your clothes couldn't turn on, and coupled with your minor injury, we haven't notified the family yet. Family members. 3 identical and honest faces flashed through Song Tan's mind. She instinctively touched her head and, in a daze, remembered the scene from the car accident. She quickly asked. I remember when a gentleman saved me, how is he now like? In her previous life, she lost consciousness at the moment of a car accident and had no idea if anyone had ever fought so hard to save her. And now the attending doctor hesitated for a moment and said, there were a total of 18 patients who were transferred to our hospital half an hour ago. According to the fire department, you were pulled out of the car by a young man, weren't you? Song Tan nodded. The doctor hesitated for a moment and said, he is not in life-threatening condition, he is from another city. He was just taken by his family to a higher-level hospital. Song Tan's heart relaxed. May I ask if there is any contact information for him or his family? I would like to thank you in person. The grace of saving lives saved Song Tan, who was 23 years old and had been practicing for countless years. Even in the vast and mysterious realm, this is a great kindness that needs to be repaid with all one's might. The doctor shook his head and said, that gentleman saved several people at the time. His family only said they didn't need to thank him when they arrived, so they didn't want to disclose any contact information. Which hospital did you go to? I went to the Imperial Capital Renai Hospital. Song Tan nodded without further questioning. She thought. At the moment, she hasn't fully adapted to this place. When she gathers spiritual energy again for cultivation, she can directly start divination and calculate the location of her benefactor. The doctors left with a crash, and Song Tan found it difficult to accept the current murky air. The lack of spiritual energy around him was clearly not a good place for cultivation. Subconsciously, she groped for the pillow, which was empty. That's right, the bags were all burned in the car accident, including identification documents. Trying again, he reached out and opened the drawer by the bedside, and indeed, a phone with a broken screen came out of it. The screen was shattered in half and left in the drawer all night. I don't know if it was to slow down or something, but anyway, Song Tan managed to successfully boot it up by exploring. She opened the interface and found the green app in the upper right corner, with a red 99+ message prompt that was particularly eye-catching. There is also a blue one, emitting a terrifying sound of nails. Make her resist instantly. The sixth sense of cultivators can help them avoid many bad things, Song Tan thought to himself. This news must not be a good thing. It's better not to look at it. The top priority is for her to play with her phone again. It's been over 100 years and she can't wait anymore. So she slid her finger down and accidentally opened an app similar to a note symbol. Trembling, start a better life. Song Tan. It's already on, I'll just take a look. The starting point of this book's debut is on Girls Network. Most of the wild vegetables, fruits, and some rural tools mentioned in the article are illustrated in this chapter, mostly sourced from Dunyang and Taobao. Click on the corresponding paragraph to see the image. Welcome everyone to take more pictures. The source of information will be written in the writing, and those who are interested can also find and read it themselves. New books, food farming, pure farming, please support us. End of this chapter. Hello, takeout. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Hello, takeout. Eye after eye. Watching short videos is really enjoyable. Originally, my life was so interesting. Song Tan also wants to play. This world is so interesting. If we can always be so happy, it's okay not to cultivate immortality. No, it's okay to cultivate immortality later. Anyway, there's no spiritual energy around now, so it's not cost-effective to cultivate with half the effort. The cultivator Song Tan savored his decision in his heart, feeling that it was not the procrastination commonly heard in memory, but rather the mysterious sixth sense of cultivation. In short, she pinched her fingers and calculated that now is an auspicious day for playing with mobile phones. This screen is a bit broken. The next moment, a phone suddenly pops up on the phone. Song Tan. What about the PPT you were asked to make? Why hasn't it been sent to me for so long? Song Tan. What is a PPT? Who is this? She reviewed the memories in her mind and found that her previous life was because her boss suddenly asked for a PPT, which made her anxious and rushed to take a taxi to the company. Who knew that the car had just boarded the Ninghai Bridge when it encountered a series of car accidents? Also, why didn't you come to work today? You'll be deducted 500 yuan per day for absenteeism. If there's another time, you'll be fired directly. Song Tan. Although she hasn't remembered it yet, it doesn't affect her anger. She knows just how much a month's salary is for this outfit. Song Tan rubbed his temples, took a deep breath, and tried to recall the endless overtime tasks of the company in his memory. The desire that surged deep in his heart became increasingly restless. I want to go back to my hometown, I want to be by my parents' and younger brother's side, I don't want to work. This idea was so strong that Song Tan made a decision in an instant. Oh no, I've been away from work for too long. What are we going to say next? Cough, boss, right. You wait first. Ningxing is just an ordinary provincial capital city, always on the road of infrastructure construction, with a disheveled face. The Ninghai Bridge, on the other hand, is a newly constructed elevated bridge that connects the north and south, saving on transportation costs. It costs 55 yuan to take a taxi from the place where Song Tan rented his residence. She usually doesn't take a taxi, but the boss said she was in a hurry to get the PPT, and she thought she had other jobs on hand, so she extravagantly took a taxi. Who knew we had a car accident this time? When I went out, it was obvious that my tattered phone was still working. Song Tan was a bit unfamiliar and tried to scan the code, so without saying a word, he took a taxi and went on to the Ninghai Bridge. More than half an hour later, she arrived downstairs at the company. Don't think too much, it's not a big enterprise. Song Tan, an ordinary second-tier graduate, was still from the countryside and couldn't even get into big enterprises. Nowadays, this company rents on the third floor of this building and does various outsourcing work. She majored in finance, which is a versatile field. At that time, there was no choice but to apply to any school. After listening to HRs, later realizing it was an ordinary employee, drawing a pie, I was finally recruited by this company. Now, after being whipped by society, he is an all-around 007 player who combines planning, operation, post-production, editing, promotion, and a versatile repairman. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, as long as there is a task, such as taking medication during holidays, crawling is also necessary. Internship period of 5,000, monthly salary of 7,500 for regular employment, doesn't that sound good? But the provincial capital has not seen much development, and housing prices have actually increased, with an average price of 15,000 yuan. The house rented by Song Tan, even if it is a 20-square micro-unit separated from an old residential area and wandering on the edge of illegal activities, costs nearly 1,000 yuan per month. Transportation, food, daily necessities. The rest has been saved up. After making the payment, Song Tan still sighed and said, I still have over 60,000 yuan left in my savings. I can't believe she was such a frugal girl in her previous life. At noon, the office area of a small company was filled with a mixed taste of food, and a young girl among colleagues reached out to greet her. Tan, why didn't you come this morning? Did you have dinner? I can't actually remember the name, but Song Tan walked over silently and saw the other person's sign, was Shuiying then look at the front tin box of little pan rice. The smell of the food is mixed with the turbidity, which makes her feel uncomfortable. I had a car accident this morning and have just been discharged from the hospital. Hu Shuiying dug out an fried egg from the box. Ah! Open your mouth, treat you to eat. The hospital's discharge must be in good condition. So Wang Pipi will definitely not be willing to give you any compensation. Anyway, compensation is not easy to get, so you have to lie in the hospital for 2 days. Eat some eggs to make up for it. Song Tan's stomach also made a very cooperative growl. Although this action was a bit intimate, Hu Shuiying seemed to be her good friend. She hesitated for a moment, then opened her mouth and took a gentle bite. As the teeth gently closed, in an instant, a strange smell rolled in the mouth. The burnt aroma of eggs, impurities in food, and rich oil, but there was also an indescribable nausea mixed in, which instantly caused abdominal cramps and the stomach began to roll. Is this the only dish? Not to mention improving cultivation, if she eats it for a long time, her body will be filled with impurities. In her lifetime, not to mention the golden elixir, whether she can build a foundation or not is a different matter. Song Tan endured for a while before swallowing the small mouthful of the egg. Hu Shuiying is still waiting to feed her a second bite. The little girl is frugal every day, both obedient and pitiful. As a friend, she also feels sorry for her. However, Song Tan shook his head and said, I don't want to eat it anymore. It feels strange. Without hesitation, Hu Hu Shuiying retrieved the egg and bit off half of it, saying, "What's so strange? It's 25 yuan per serving. However, it is true that there is no delicious food at home. According to my mother's words, takeout has no taste, it's all made with strong oil, soy sauce, and vinegar." Song Tan touched her stomach, but she was actually hungry too. She didn't eat anything from last night until this morning, and now she realizes that she is an ordinary person with an ordinary body and needs to eat. She hesitated for a moment and said, "Is it due to the ingredients? Then I'll order something better." Her spiritual energy was scarce, and there were too many impurities in the ingredients. Thinking of the strange taste of the food just now, she turned her gaze to the more expensive dishes. Is it better to ensure that the general source of ingredients is more reliable? During the process of waiting for takeout, Song Tan asked, "The boss said he wanted a PPT, which one is? Time is too long, I really don't know this thing anymore." Hu Shuiying didn't care and casually said, "Which PPT? I heard you say I made half of it yesterday. Can you take a look at the computer again?" Song Tan walked to his narrow grid workstation, slowly opened the computer, and opened the semi-finished products, images, text, and formats on the desktop. Zai read it carefully. "But what about the rest? What else should we do?" "Open other folders again." Sure enough, one, none, no, yes. Song, cultivator, Tan stabilizes the old dog and remains motionless like a mountain. If she doesn't know, she won't. Anyway, she has worked hard enough for 2 lifetimes. This time, she won't work as a laborer. At this moment, there was a loud shout at the company gate. "Hello, takeout." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 3. Go back to your hometown to farm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Go back to your hometown to farm. Song Tan regained his senses and took his takeout. It was a boutique dish from one of the best privately owned restaurants with a value of 188 and a good reputation. However, as soon as she opened the box, the aroma of the vegetables mixed with the murky scent, as if she was particularly uncomfortable with the air now. Song Tan only felt her stomach churn. No matter what, she couldn't eat anymore. At this moment, the boss, who was respectfully referred to as Wang Pipi by the employees, walked in and immediately angrily said, "Song Tan, you still have the heart to eat. Where is the PPT I need? I told you that you can't submit it before 2 o'clock, so don't do it either." Song Tanhua stood up and said, "I forgot something. She's here to get fired. Okay, remember to punch in the salary on time. I will quit now and go back to my hometown." The whole office was stunned. Seeing that Song Tan had already started packing up, Wang Pipi stood there, feeling lost and aggrieved at the moment. I didn't mean that either. It's not easy for him to find an employee who is obedient, hardworking, and capable of being cheap. Hu Shuiying stopped eating and came over to advise Song Tan not to be impulsive. Nowadays, the overall environment is not good, and it is not easy to change jobs. As a result, I suddenly saw the bald hair on the other side of Song Tan's head, as well as the gauze sticking to it. I don't know why I felt wronged at the moment. Let's go. Tan, I'll help you pack up. You take care of yourself first, and I'll come find you after work. Song Tanang's words were a wish hidden in his body for many years. After saying that sentence, she quickly recalled the green mountains and clear waters at home, the chubby hens cooing, and the chubby pigs snorting in her mind. She doesn't know if the pigs in her hometown have impurities, but they must be better than those in the city, right? At this moment, her heart was already eager to go home. No, I'm serious. I'll go back to rent and pack up later, and then go directly to my hometown. At this moment, Hu Shuiying also froze. Song Tan's packaging speed is exceptionally fast. Isn't the 2 lifetimes of hard work meant to have a better life? Is it uncomfortable to be self-sufficient at home now that I have a cultivation ability, although I haven't started practicing yet? She picked up temporary documents from the police station and took a taxi back to the rented house with a box in her arms. A small house of 20 square meters, with a few clothes hanging by the window, and a stack of books on the desk, all of which are learning materials related to work. On the 1.2-meter small bed, the cotton 4-piece set still carries the wrinkles from yesterday's panicked outing. Looking at it, Song Tan couldn't help but think of how frugal he used to be. She let out a silent sigh. I dug out the cardboard box that I couldn't bear to throw away, packed some simple toiletries, and unpacked a 4-piece bedding set, a box of clothes, and 3 pairs of shoes. It's gone. After tidying up a bit, she called the landlord. She left early, the deposit was non-refundable, and the excess rent was refunded. After calculation, there are still 63,500 yuan left now. Go home. High-speed rail, taxi. For 4 hours, Song Tan, who was willing to spend money, did not travel by train or bus as before. At this moment, she was standing on the roadside 5 or 6 hours earlier than usual. Looking at the babbling stream on the other side of the road, breathing in air different from the city, although still somewhat murky, the whole person finally broke free from the swaying state. On the road on the distant hillside, a motorcycle roared over, went downhill, passed through fields planted with tea trees on both sides, and finally stopped in front of her. The man with a short stature and dark skin looked at her, with a simple smile on his face. Tan, why are you on vacation? The middle-aged man got off the car and placed the large suitcase on the iron frame at the back of the motorcycle. He tied it tightly with a rubber band rope a few times, then shook it again before speaking. Get in the car, Dad will take you back. Your mom baked sweet potatoes at home, and I caught a few crucian carp to stew for you yesterday. What's wrong with your head? This is her father, Song Sancheng. Song Tan's eyes were filled with tears as he looked at this ordinary man who was full of worries. He tried to smile and then pretended to casually touch his head, saying, "It's okay. I knocked on my head after work, but the company keeps working overtime lately. I might as well come back and rest for a few days." You need to rest, otherwise what if you fall ill at a young age? The ignition rod of the motorcycle was heavily stepped on a few times, and then it made a roar. Song Tan instinctively grabbed the back frame with his back hand, feeling the increasingly fresh scent of the wind blowing on his face. Up the mountain, winding and becoming increasingly dense trees, even in the cold winter, one can see lush tea mountains, pine forests. This is her hometown, Yuncheng, Qingxi Town, and Yunxiao Village. A hometown with mountains and water, and distinct 4 seasons. This is her new life. The motorcycle climbed over the mountains and ridges for more than 10 minutes, and finally approached the village after a long downhill journey. Yunxiao Village is located in the mountains. Although it is no longer a problem to get out with the village roads and the daily shuttle bus, the winding mountain road still brings inconvenience. In recent years, the number of young people in the village has been decreasing. The elderly are gradually passing away, the young are moving away, and the people left behind in the village have become increasingly sparse. At best, there are no more than 30 households in the surrounding area. But what's there to that? Cultivator, why haven't you stayed in the deep mountains and old forests? It doesn't matter whether there is anyone or not, as seclusion can last for months or decades. Song Tan got off the motorcycle and felt a strange sensation in his body. It was a wave from his spiritual roots. Being able to have this reaction proves that deep in the mountains and forests, it is indeed more suitable for cultivation. Thinking of his ability to recover his cultivation, Song Tan became more confident about the future. In the realm of cultivation, she has dual spiritual roots of water and wood, practicing 2 types of martial arts, which is the most vibrant. It's just that the heavenly way is difficult, and the golden elixir is difficult to achieve. Without becoming a golden pill, in the realm of cultivation, the law of the fittest prevails, and she cannot control her own destiny. In order to seek a breakthrough opportunity, Song Tan has been planting spiritual plants in the back mountain for 100 years, carefully experiencing life and death, withering and glory, wind and frost, snow and rain, sunshine and morning dew. The ability to nourish plants with one hand's spiritual energy is about to exercise its cost. Now that she is fortunate enough to have another life, when she returns to the countryside, she doesn't ask for anything else. Let's plant something she can eat first. The food in this mortal world is so dirty that it's really difficult for her to swallow. Thinking of this, my stomach, which had not eaten all day, became even more hungry, and the first thing was a pungent aroma. A short and chubby woman also came out of the kitchen on the other side of the yard. Tan Tan, what do you want to eat tonight? I stewed crucian carp soup, cooked a few more, and then scrambled an egg for you. Aren't you fond of eggs? The chicken is too late to kill now, so I'll stew it for you tomorrow. Old song, go pull 2 pairs of coriander and put it in the fish soup later. Coriander is coriander, and the whole family of Song Tan loves this taste. Song Tan looked at her mother Ulan and smiled, add 2 more pounds of fat. Ningqing never puts this on fish. I've been thinking about it for a long time. The locals in Yincheng love to eat fish with this, which has a unique aroma. Song Tan only found out after going to work in Ningqing that this, big fat, also known as huxiang, seems to be something that outsiders, including Ningqing, don't eat. Ulan laughed and said, can you cook delicious in a restaurant outside? But in this big winter, there's no big fat, just coriander. The new book has been released, I hope everyone can collect more comments and vote for support. In the future, I will update this book every day. In the end of Help, there will be many free extras. From the beginning, Mermaid, and HP Comrades, were works that adjusted the mood, and I will write them well, but updates will follow fate. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. I plant corn to feed you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. I plant corn to feed you. The courtyard in my hometown is quite large, and the cement floor has already cracked. In the midst of winter, there is still a small purple flower that has emerged from a crack and is trembling in the cold wind, blooming a small purple flower. Song Tanning stared at the flower, feeling that the environment had changed, and even the little wild flower had a clear and beautiful appearance. Song Sancheng placed the luggage in the hall and quickly called out to his daughter. Tan Tan, it's cold outside. Hurry inside and go grill the fire. Riding a motorcycle is really cold, he said as he rubbed his hands and feet. Song Tan hesitated for a moment before realizing. Yes, cycling in the winter is indeed very cold. But she didn't feel too much. Spreading out his hands, he saw his palms as white as jade. It was believed that he had worked hard to repair his body in a car accident, hoping to avoid the inevitable fate of death. As a result, his body was tempered to a certain extent. However, it is also very limited. For example, at this moment, a cold wind blew by and Song Tan's body trembled uncontrollably. She was stunned for a moment and quickly plunged into the room. This is a warm cabin. The area is not large, and there is a tin stove in the corner next to the window, with a square iron plate on top. The flue is made long and bends at the ceiling, spreading towards the wall opening on the other side. In this way, the flames in the furnace are raging, and the hot and seductive smoke is discharged from the room through the flue. As long as the fire is ignited, the entire room will be warm and cozy, comparable to a heating room in the northeast. Song Sancheng hasn't seen his daughter for a long time. It's not good to work in a big city, there are few holidays, and it's difficult to buy tickets during peak hours. The last time I saw you was during the Chinese New Year. But it's only 3 days off, and I went to work overtime on the 4th day of junior high school, which was very tiring. His first child was this kind of girl, and she always says whatever she says in her daily life, even if her son is born later, it is still a habit. After thinking for a moment, I didn't know what to say, so I reached out my heartless iron hand and took the roasted sweet potato from the stove. Are you hungry? Have a sweet potato, Matt. He is not afraid of scalding, and Song Tan is also not afraid now. He reached out to take it and said, Dad, you can eat it too. I don't want to eat it. Song Sancheng quickly waved his hand and said, when I was a child, you used to make sweet potatoes for us every day. Eating too much of these things made our hearts burn and we got hurt. Song Tan fell silent for a moment. And Song Sancheng finally found a topic. How long will you stay at home this time? Song Tan opened her mouth. Although she was in the realm of cultivating immortals, she had always had a straightforward personality, but at this moment, her words weighed 1,000 pounds. Dad, I resigned and want to go home to farm. Song Sancheng fell silent for an instant. After a while, he sighed and said, Tan, you don't know the hard work of farming. As a college student, you come back to farm. I'm not afraid of being laughed at, but you really can't bear that hardship. The implication is that I disagree. Dad, when I was a child, I used to pull peanuts, break corn, pick tea leaves, and water the garden. I also did farm work, said Song Tan calmly. How many jobs are you capable of? Song Sancheng pointed to the medicine bucket placed in the opposite miscellaneous room and said, you can't even carry that bucket. That's an old-fashioned blue plastic medicine bucket, weighing 30 pounds when filled with water, and you have to carry it around while spraying. But compared to digging tea mountains, cutting rice and transplanting seedlings, this is already an extremely light and economical job. Don't think that rural areas don't use pesticides either. In recent years, cordyceps has strong resistance to pesticides, and everyone else uses them. If you don't use them, then wait for the food and tea to be eaten up. As she spoke, Ulan carried a bowl of milky white fish soup into the room, with a lingering fragrance. Even though there were still some slight impurities in it, it was much better than what she tasted during the day. Tan, drink more soup tonight. The crucian carp was caught by your father from that wild pond, which is very nutritious. You should supplement it more. Turning to see the small piece of gauze on my daughter's head, and hearing that it was accidentally knocked, I became even more determined in my belief in serving her 2 more bowls of soup at night. Ulan placed the basin on the iron sheet countertop of the stove, heating it up. In the blink of an eye, she saw the sweet potato in Song Tan's hand. Tan, don't eat sweet potatoes for now. This is our local white heart sweet potato, which is both noodle and choking. Keep it for night and don't wait until you can't eat anymore. Without waiting for an answer, he hurried back to the kitchen. And Song Tan set the sweet potato aside and looked at Song Sancheng's complex expression, so he picked up the blue and heavy medicine bucket from the clutter, opened the nearby faucet and directly poured water into it. Tan. Song Sancheng also followed out. Watching his daughter's effortless movements, for some reason, he felt a sense of sadness. My daughter has been obedient and sensible since childhood, frugal and willing to spend money while working outside, just for the sake of this family. Now that the child has a head injury and comes back saying he has resigned, he must have been wronged in Ningcheng. Also, every time he calls, he works overtime. The house he lives in is so small, how can he not endure hardship? At this moment, Song Sancheng had already wavered. If the child wants to come back and farm, they can do it. If they can't bear the hardship, they can find a job in their urban area later. At least it's close to home. As soon as Song Sancheng was about to speak, he saw that the medicine bucket was already full, and his daughter, who couldn't bear the hardship, was holding it like carrying a teddy bear. At this moment, the 58-year-old authentic farmer Song Sancheng looked at his rough hands and felt confused. Why do I think that bucket is very heavy? Am I getting old? And just then, a cheerful shout suddenly came from a distance. Sister! Sister! Unconsciously, Song Tan turned his head and saw a young boy wearing a black cotton vest running from the road. He had long legs and was about 1.8 meters tall, but he was thin. But with fair skin and a small dimple on his cheek, he ran over with a smile, his whole being filled with joy. Sister. This is her younger brother Song Qiao, who is 18 years old physically and 6 years old psychologically. Ulan gave birth to him at the age of 40, and there was no habit of prenatal checkups in the countryside. As a result, he was born like this, always retaining the mentality of 6 or 7 years old. But very well behaved and sensible, it was always raised by Song Tan alone when he was a child. Until she left home for school and then stayed in Ningqing. Song Qiao stood in front of Song Tan, with sparkling eyes and obediently looking at her, like a little dog. Song Tan reached out and the boy obediently lowered his head to touch his cold face, saying, "Qiao Qiao. I'll come back and accompany you, okay? Okay. It's super loud." Then he looked at Song Sanqing hesitantly and said, "But Dad said, you have to earn money, it's tiring, and I can't keep bothering you." Song Tan laughed and went to check his hands again to see if his nails were dry or not. He was very well behaved and didn't pick mud in the winter. Making money is too tiring. Sister doesn't want to make it anymore. Come back and accompany Qiao Qiao, accompany parents, let's go together. Is that okay? Song Qiao didn't know what it meant for the rare college students in the village to come back and farm, he just cheered. Okay. Sister, don't be afraid. I can grow corn, I'll take care of you. At this moment, Song Sanqing, who had been suffering all along, burst out laughing. You will put corn kernels into the pit and break them off the pole. What kind of corn will you grow? Thank you Qianqiu for your reward, and thank you all for your support. This article is still slow to heat up. Prices, rural areas, farming, environment, climate, each place has different living habits, I guarantee not to write blindly. So don't rush when you see different opinions, just consider traveling to distant rural areas. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Divided Fields. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Divided Fields. Song Sanqing agreed to let her go back to farm, and Song Tan breathed a sigh of relief. Next, it's her mother Ulan. At this moment, Ulan spoke up and said, "It's time for dinner. Qiao Qiao, go wash your hands and serve the dishes." Song Qiao obediently ran over, in the middle of winter, turning on the outdoor faucet to flush the water, and then diligently went to serve the vegetables. Milk white wild crucian carp soup, with a handful of cilantro on top, just take a sip and you'll know what a fresh fish it is. Next, there are 8 braised crucian carp. The crucian carp is not big and only looks like 2 or 3 liang each. At this moment it is paired with coriander, chili, and scallion braised, and the rich aroma fills the entire room with dominance. If it were warmer, there would definitely be even more delicious fish roe in the fish belly. Next is stewed pork with radish. Braised pork in a pot is their local practice. They marinate the fat and lean pork in salt, cut it into small pieces, add some peanut oil to the pot, and stir-fry until the meat is golden in color. After boiling out a portion of the fragrant lard, they can put the oil and meat together in the pot. After cooling down, the thick white lard will tightly protect the meat pieces, cover them with a lid and place them in a cool place. Eat and dig as you please. Nowadays, when stewed, even the fat part is fragrant and not greasy at all. Another dish is a plate of wild garlic stir-fried eggs. The finely chopped wild garlic is green and oily, and our own local eggs are fried to a golden color. Paired in pairs, the aroma is fragrant. Finally, there's a famous dish called red-billed green parrot. The emerald green and tender spinach has a sweet and refreshing taste, paired with garlic and stir-fried. Fairy Song Tan sat on the stool, unwilling to move her nest. My younger brother Song Qiao is a thoughtful baby who has already brought over his rice bowl and said, "Sister, I helped catch the fish. Eat more." Song Sanqing doesn't care about anything else, and the dignity of fishing cannot be violated. You just were an earthworm, what did you catch? Another sentence from Ulan suppressed him. Xiao Xiao wears good earthworms to catch fish. Otherwise, why did you catch so much this time, right Xiao Xiao? Song Qiao also looked at his father and snorted, that's it. The family status is very obvious. Song Tan smiled and took a sip of his brother's fish soup, which tasted fresh and fragrant. The only downside is that behind the delicious taste, there is a turbidity that only she can perceive. However, although there is no spiritual energy, impurities still exist. But she, who was starving, can now eat it. Anyway, it's much better than daytime takeout. Ulan watched as her daughter added another bowl, and then looked at her pale face and frail body. At this moment, she was both proud and heartbroken. Eat more, there's still some in the pot. Tomorrow, Mom will use a stove to cook rice, and I'll soak the pot in chicken soup for you. Their kitchen is large, and the old earthen stove has not been removed. As soon as Song Tan comes back, he will definitely have goba rice. Mom, I don't want to go out to work anymore. I'm so tired, said Song Tan with a pitiful expression in his heart. She originally wanted to show weakness, but ended up forgetting that she had been practicing immortality for 100 years and couldn't control her own mother's personality. For example, at this moment, Ulan also sighed and said, what should we do? Otherwise, you can change your job. It's better to have less money. Your father and I have also saved a lot, which is enough to support your younger brother's retirement. With Song Qiao like this, even the hospital said there was nothing they could do. The elderly couple also felt sorry for him and had long decided to retire with their son in the future. What about getting married? Finding a woman to take care of that's impossible. Xiao Qiao is foolish, but he is also a good child. Those who have been born these days may not necessarily dislike him, let alone looking for someone else. Don't harm others, and don't make them wrong. Xiao Qiao. Over the years, they have been frugal, also to save more retirement money and strive not to burden their daughter. Tan Tan is good. Looking and a college student. We can't delay going back to the countryside anymore. There are no young people under the age of 30 in their village now. In the future, I hope she has a good job, marries a good family, and doesn't suffer. Song Tan didn't know that in just this moment, her mother's heart had already turned 1,000 times. It's no use showing weakness, why not hit a straight ball? Mom, I want to go home and farm. As soon as he spoke, he saw that Ulan was already groping for tree branches. Unconsciously, Song Tan tightened his back and quickly added more, by the way, taking care of my body, Mom, my body is too weak. Ulan finally held her breath and pondered for a moment. Yes, young man. Your job is too exhausting, you need to rest. Okay, just stay in your hometown for a few months. It just happens that spring is not too busy, so you can also exercise. Song Tan and Song Sanqing exchanged a glance, and both father and daughter fell silent. However, there is one thing that Song Tan did not lie. Her body is indeed weak inside. Although she may not be afraid of the cold even though she is strong, it is all because her spiritual energy was refined during a car accident. However, the city itself had a thin spiritual energy. At that time, her internal organs were severely damaged and her life was not long. It was only then that she risked her life to gather her spiritual energy to survive. Now everything is fine in the hospital examination, but only she knows that her body has not been fully repaired and her mental state is severely depleted. Saying to rest and recuperate in the countryside is not at all false. I finished a meal without any danger. After filling his stomach, Song Tan's spirits clearly improved. Song Qiao obediently went to wash the dishes, wanting to show off in front of his sister. And she sat in front of the stove with her family, contemplating her future career. There is spiritual energy here, and Song Tan is still very confident in the future. With the current trend of health preservation, everyone loves mountain and wild things, and the things she grows with spiritual energy will definitely not worry about the market. But before that, her mother couldn't cross this big mountain. Let's talk about Bao Tian and Bao Shan doing a big job. Even if Song Tan had been practicing for 100 years, he knew that his 60,000 yuan was not enough, and he had to use his parents' savings. With empty words and white teeth, a college student suddenly said that farming can make a fortune. Song Tan believed that Ulan would definitely use the tree twig to slap her, cursing at the same time. You can handle it. You know how to farm. Farming can make a fortune, why do people go to the city? Farming can make you rich, why are your parents still living in the village? Alright, let's take it step by step and tidy up our own fields. It is the end of February in the Gregorian calendar. Yuan Shao, filled round balls made of glutinous rice. Flour for Lantern Festival has just passed. It is a good time for everything to recover. When she comes home at this time, she can first cultivate her body and arouse her aura. Wait until the spring rain comes, first use your own fields to make achievements, and then slowly plan for it. Now, what she doesn't lack the most is patience and time. But before that, Mom, let's divide the fields at home and try it out myself. I don't want your help. Ulan stuffed a piece of firewood into the stove and casually said, are you going to farm or dig mountains? The field in the corner of the bamboo forest has been abandoned for several years, so ask your father to tidy it up for you. In terms of mountains. What's the point? The mountain at the back of the house is already ours, and there's also our old tea mountain. There's also a place far away. If you can dig it, you can do whatever you want. Song Tan. Don't underestimate the villagers. The fields passed down from the older generation may not be many, but there must be mountains. Xianggu actually secretly pushed me. I humbly admit that her naming level is a bit higher than mine, and I am better than stability, dog head. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 6. Do not allow learning to bark like a pig. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. 6. No learning how to bark like a pig. Song Tan was truly shocked. Is our family so wealthy? It's both mountains and fields. What money do you have? Ulan didn't even lift her head. It's all passed down from your grandfather in the past. It's in the wilderness, it can't be sold, and there's no one to pack it. It's just abandoned. Song Tan fell silent. The total number of households in the entire village now is less than 30, with an average age of 40 or 50. Currently, the food is not valuable, so let's just make ends meet. So not only their family, but also other families are mostly abandoned. There's no other reason, it's just a shortage of labor. They have a lot of mountains here, and large agricultural machinery cannot be used. Small ones need to pay for themselves, which is expensive. Even earning 1 acre of land for a year cannot save up the cost. Plus the winding roads, there's nothing to sell outside. Planting rice and wheat is all for one's own family to eat. After a year of hard work, it involves irrigation, fertilization, pest control, and weeding, which is also a significant amount of money. What about the harvest? When there is not enough labor, they will take in their own food. Looking back, at the supermarket in town, it costs over 2 yuan per kilogram. Although the taste is not very good, you don't have to work hard yourself. After calculation, the money spent is still much less. It's better to leave it unused. If you really want to make money, you have to go out and work after finishing your work in the first half of each year. For example, in Ulan, I went to a shoe factory last year to wear shoelaces for 6,000 yuan a month. I worked until the Chinese New Year before finally being willing to go home. The year before yesterday was Song Sancheng. He went to work at the construction site in the imperial capital, where he worked for 3 months at a rate of 400 yuan per day. He earned over 30,000 yuan and lost about 10 pounds. He returned to recuperate for over half a month. After all, they are also old. Song Tan felt a pang of bitterness in her heart. At this moment, she promised, "Mom, don't worry, I will definitely make you live a good life. Ulan didn't bother her, just retorted, if you can handle it, I'll clean up all the fields and mountains at home for you. Just leave a vegetable plot and don't waste it. I also want you to see what it means to endure hardship. But you want mountains and fields, it's already the end of February. What are you planning to plant for spring? Song 10. Well, she really didn't have a plan for this. I've only traveled back half a day and haven't achieved any results yet. Planting anything is just a waste of time. But with Ulan's intimidating gaze, Song 10 decisively changed his words. Mom, don't worry, when have I ever done something I'm not sure about since I was young? That's right, my daughter has always been obedient and sensible. Except for this time. Ulan let out a and waited for further information. Song 10 said, since that's the case, let Dad rent a few machines tomorrow and turn over the barren fields. I won't move the things we plant in our house. I have plans for a few hills, but let's have someone dig them. The machines won't go. Mom, just hire someone and I'll pay. Are you coming to pay? Ulan looked at her meaningfully, daughter, digging the mountain alone costs 200 yuan per day. You only have that 60,000 yuan, but take it easy, otherwise our family won't have as much capital to build for you. Song 10's expression cracked. Why was she so obedient before? All deposits need to be reported, Mom. After cleaning up the kitchen, Song Qiao ran in with red hands, which made Ulan angry again. How many times have I told you to use hot water in winter? Why don't you listen? They both intended to exercise Song Qiao, teaching him household chores little by little, fearing that one day. But Song Qiao didn't know how to take care of his body, and the process of this practice was also full of frustration. For example, at this moment, Song Qiao ignored her and only leaned over to Song 10 to snuggle up. Sister, I want to see Paige. Mom won't show me. Oh, hello. Who can refuse such a big baby? Song 10 immediately took out his phone and said, come on, let's. She's stuck. I saw the phone pulled out, with cracks crisscrossing and dancing wildly on the edge of being scrapped. Ulan glanced at her 1,000 yuan machine and suddenly felt heartbroken. It's difficult for you outside, Mom knows, but your family doesn't lack you, so don't be too frugal. For a moment, he softened his voice and said, if you want to plant the land, plant it well. If there's nothing else at home, it's just a lot of land. Whatever you want to do is up to you. Turning his head, he took out his phone and transferred 2,000 yuan to her, saying, go to town tomorrow and buy a new one. Song 10 blinked in confusion and then looked at his phone. Unexpected joy, ha. However, the next moment, I heard Song Qiao making a humming sound beside me, looking at the two of them while speaking. At this moment, Ulan's softness couldn't continue, and she roared angrily. Song Qiao. I told you to learn that pigs bark again, and you're not allowed to watch TV. In the quiet night, Song 10 finally had the opportunity to try to activate spiritual energy. Spiritual energy in starlight, slowly surging with the wind in the quiet village on a winter night. As her mind moves, strands of spiritual energy, like fireflies that are difficult for ordinary people to see, slowly converge. Just as Gan Lin nourished her weak body, which was riddled with wounds and holes, and tempered her body finally, when the sky turned white with fish bellies, the spiritual energy that had already become more and more intense during operation was finally collected by Song 10 into the elixir field. At this moment, her whole body was already filled with sticky black impurities, and the smell in the room became even more enchanting. Song 10 had to sneak into the bathroom like a thief again. Thank you to the new countryside. Although she is not so afraid of the cold now, she still has to say one thing. The water heater is really great. But unfortunately, because the dirt on the body was too difficult to rub, not only did the hot water run out after taking a shower, but Ulan also woke up. Taking a shower in the morning of winter, and using up all the cold water from the hot water heater. It's simply heartless and crazy. So in an instant, the whole family got up. Xiao Qiao cooked ginger soup, Song Sanqing cooked the stove, and Ulan quickly used the stove to stew water, making sure not to let her get cold. When she finally stepped onto the street, the fairy Song Tan wrapped herself in an old military coat and put on her grandmother's woolen hat before being allowed to sit on the back seat of the motorcycle. Motorcycles are difficult to start in winter, and Song Sanqing is stomping on the ignition rod in front with a loud roar. She is pondering behind her back what to do today. Firstly, go to the town police station to apply for an ID card. Thank goodness, due to mobile payment nowadays, she didn't bring her card with her when she got into a car accident, which saved her a lot of trouble. Then it's buying a new phone. The two most important tasks have been completed, and the next step is to buy some agricultural tools, fertilizers, and most importantly, seeds. As for what seeds to buy, Song Tan already has an idea in his mind. At this moment, she was sitting on a motorcycle, looking at the vast mountains she had just climbed over, and then at the newly rising red sun on the horizon, feeling a surge of pride. Dad! It won't be long before I make our village more beautiful. Our days will be even better. Song Sanqing rode his bike ahead and loudly said, Tan Tan, why don't you spend your 60,000 yuan leisurely? Before, the electric water heater in the rental room had a small hot water capacity, and it was very stressful to take a bath and wash hair in winter. Can you guess what Tan Tan's first choice was to plant? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. I am a wealthy person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. I am a wealthy person. The police station in the small town doesn't need to queue up, and it only took Song Tan 10 minutes to get his ID card reissued before he left. At this moment, I efficiently picked out a domestically produced machine that costs 3,000 yuan, and pondering the little money in my pocket, I am also filled with melancholy. Just 60,000 yuan, to be precise, over 62,000 yuan, plus the 2,000 yuan subsidy from Ulan, 64,000 yuan, Song Tan also planned to make some plans last night. How to plan? By mobile phones, farm tools, seeds, and fertilizers can we keep the rest? No, we have to hire someone to dig the mountains, the ground, and everything she wants to plant. This amount of money cannot be sustained by manpower for long. Dad, my mom said both the fields and the mountains were being tossed and turned for me, but the vegetable field didn't move. Is there a machine that can turn over the ground? If you can't afford it, you can rent it. Song Sanqing still couldn't let go of it and said, Tan Tan, do you really want to farm? Just give it a 1 or 2 piece experience. Your stall is so big, and the villagers know about it. Can't you be called arrogant? Song Tan himself was very open to it, but it was impossible for Song Sanqing and Ulan to stay here for their entire lives and not pay any attention to rumors. Therefore, she advised, Dad, I only grow 1 piece of land, as they should have said. Since that's the case, it's better to be more grand. Song Sanqing was dumbfounded and didn't know what to say, so he sighed again and said, I discussed with your mother last night. If we can't move the 200,000 yuan pension money, we can only give you 60,000 yuan. Tan Tan, earning money is not easy. Don't waste it. Song Tan's eyes suddenly became hot. She knew that her father was not lying. In a rural family, she supports a college student and has a foolish son. Even working as a couple takes turns. How much money can she save? This is really all my belongings. Song Sanqing didn't know his daughter's thoughts and was still worried at the moment. If you want to do it, then you have to think about how you can make money. Otherwise, there are so many farmers in the village, which one is not stronger than you? If you're not sure, then think again. Song Tan also fell silent. In the realm of cultivation, no one cares about what they do or don't do as long as their realm is sufficient. Just like her water and wood spirit technique, which seeks to break through and plant the moon peak for 100 years. There are many like this. But now in the world of ordinary people, she can squander 60,000 yuan, but how dare she make her parents so worried about their hard-earned money? What should I say about Xiuzhen? Song Tan pondered for a moment and said, Dad, to be honest, I've been wanting to come back for a long time. Our village is close to the water source and there are 18 winding mountain roads. It hasn't been polluted in these years and is a particularly good place. This is true, but the mountains are not majestic and steep enough, and the forest and fields are mostly planted with something casually, and most of them are abandoned there. I just want to develop, but I really have no way to start. After all these years, there hasn't really been much pollution. Otherwise, Song Tan wouldn't have successfully induced qi into his body overnight. What's good about it? Song Sanqing didn't take it seriously. This kind of village is all around. Song Tan whispered, Dad, the reason why I dare to come back to farm is because an expert came here to test and said that the soil and water quality is very high. Planting crops will also have better quality than other places. He is professional, and what are the benefits of lying? So I feel like I can't hold on to work this time, so I want to come back and give it a try. Dad, if it's done, I'll be able to stay in the village with you all the time from now on. The last sentence moved Song Sanqing. Raising children and daughters, doesn't he want to be with his family? But the child goes to live in the town in junior high school, works in high school and university. At best, they spend very little time as parents with their children. Now that his daughter said this, Song Sanqing couldn't help but believe it. Yes, they came specifically to test it, what if? So he made a self-introduction and followed suit, saying, yes, the dishes we grow here have a more delicious taste than those sold in your supermarket. The father and daughter bravely went to see the farm tools. By the way, Dad, how much do we have for the plowing machines here? Song Sanqing thought for a moment and said, it seems like you can get 5,000 yuan. Song Tan immediately decided, I'll buy one. Buy what you want. Song Sanqing glared at her. This thing needs to be repaired after using it twice. Besides, from the bamboo forest to the pond in our house, there are a total of 7 or 8 large fields. Can you still finish it in one go if you can repair it? Their fields here are all terrace structures, only suitable for this small agricultural machinery. But the small ones are cheap, but they are prone to problems. In this regard, Song Sanqing is more experienced than Song Tan, who only knows how to use spells. So Song Tan followed Song Sanqing and saw him enter a shop selling agricultural machinery. With a few words, he settled on a daily price of 500 yuan for arable land. It's really expensive. Song Sanqing left the store and was still muttering. There aren't many people farming now, but there are also. It's time to prepare for spring plowing, which is the peak season. In addition, they not only rent machines, but also have people to work on, and the fields are also in a semi-barren state that has not been managed for many years. If this price is to be offered, it will leave Song Sanqing speechless. However, he was obviously an optimist and now he was happy again. Having machines saves trouble. His house is more expensive, but it's better to dig deeper than others. In fact, this is the only one in the town that sells agricultural machinery for rent. If it's any further away, we'll have to go to the neighboring town. Song Tan looked at her father and felt that he was cute everywhere. By the way, Tan, what are you planning to plant first? If you're planting rice, you'll have to clean up the pond at the top. It's all water chestnuts after so many years of neglect. They love to eat here. They used to grow both rice and wheat, but overall, they still grow more rice. Of course, there are no races now. Song Tan looked at his father and felt like a low-key richest child. So the pond belongs to our family too. There are weeping willows, wild grass and vegetables by the edge of the pond, and the water quality is clear and clean. In Song Tan's memory, although the water chestnuts inside were small, only as big as chestnuts, the sweet and tender taste after peeling was completely different from what was sold in the vegetable market outside. She had never tasted them again in so many years. That's not right. Song Sancheng took it for granted. So when we grow rice at home, how can we still grow rice if we use someone else's pond and they don't allow us to release water? Not to mention that, the bamboo forest, including the pond at the entrance, belongs to our family. Your father and I are the youngest. When we split up, your uncle parted mountains, and our house is nearby. Only the pond on the distant hillside was dug by the original team. Song Sancheng sighed and clearly began to worry about money. Song Tan was so shocked that he dared not speak. She was planning to come back and take over the mountain fields, but at first glance, what else is she taking over? She, a wealthy household. At this moment, Song Tan was full of energy, so he pointed to the seed shop ahead. Dad, why don't you buy a few dozen pounds of Xiuzhen first? Xiuzhen can be planted in spring and autumn, and rhizobia can fertilize the field, making it a high-quality fertilizer. And it's quite nutritious and has a good taste. The flowers bloom in a light purple color. And the growth cycle is short, it can grow out in 1 or 2 months. It can be eaten by humans, as well as by pigs, cows, and sheep, additional. When I saw many friends asking in the comments section, let me explain that some small agricultural machines are not expensive in terms of unit price, but they require skilled manual operation, fuel consumption, and frequent repairs, which is also true. Here, Tan Tan's father is talking about 500 yuan for a full day, including manual fuel consumption repairs. Renting can save manpower and money when there is insufficient initial funding. Haha, I didn't expect it. It's Xiuzhen. When I was a child, before growing rice at home, I would plant purple clouds, and then the cattle and sheep in the village would eat them casually in the fields. The reason why I left a deep impression is because I was riding a cow in a purple flower field. When I jumped down, I fell into a ditch and then cried when I went home. I was wearing wet and heavy sweaters, which were badly repaired. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Purple Cloud English. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Purple Cloud English. Song Sancheng frowned and said, "Are you planning to plant rice on dozens of acres of land? Otherwise, we wouldn't need so much purple cloud to gain weight, dozens of pounds. Xiuzhen only uses 5 or 6 kilograms of seeds per acre of land. At the end of February, the down jacket and cotton jacket are still on me. After March, the temperature will rise quickly. As long as there is no spring cold, the temperature difference between day and night will not be as large, and most crops can be planted. If you plant Purple Cloud English, you can only plant it again by the end of April and May at the very least. That's okay, it won't delay planting." According to Song Sancheng's farming experience, May is the most suitable month for planting in rural areas. Every year from March to April, there is a cold spell in spring, with a large temperature difference between day and night, and the seeds will also freeze to death during germination, which is not suitable. He just felt uneasy thinking about spending so much money to waste time from the beginning. Song Tan thought for a long time last night, but now he is calm and composed. The bottom 2 fields are planted with rice, and we can eat them ourselves. The 2 plots of land add up to 3 or 4 acres, and now the rice yield is also high enough for the family to eat, and some can be given as gifts to family and friends. No more Song Tan, I won't consider it anymore. Planting rice is hard, there aren't many left. You can also try raising fish in rice paddies. The other few fields will be fertilized with Xiuzhen first, and when it warms up, I will plant vegetables. Song Sancheng no longer opposes this. Planting vegetables is good, it sells well, and then you can ride a tricycle to the street to sell. The cost is low, the harvest is fast, and it is easier than growing rice. Song Tan laughed and said, "Yes, I plan to do the same." That's strange. How many people are there in the town? To go is also to go to the city. In fact, when Song Tan recalled his work last night, he had some other ideas. Nowadays people love watching rural videos to relieve stress and calm down, but with so many rural areas, how can he quickly catch the attention? Either beautiful or unique. Her hometown is Yunxiao village, which is really ordinary. In this way, we need to focus our efforts on beauty. The growth cycle of Xianying is short, the skin is solid and good for planting, and the flowers are beautiful enough. When she takes a video, the first shot will rely on the continuous Xianying flower field to attract traffic. Otherwise, with so many crops and vegetables, when can we become a boutique? At the end of February, there were not many people in the agricultural input store, and Song Tan demanded 70 pounds of purple cloud English seeds. The owner was also quite curious. How much land do you plant? 5 kilograms of this original seed per acre is enough, and 10 kilograms of this medicinal seed. The price is the same, 10 yuan per kilogram. The original seed is the original seed, which has not been processed. The medicinal seed is wrapped with insect and disease prevention drugs on the outside of the seed, which has good resistance. Song Tan thought to himself that I couldn't plant the white seed spirit for 100 years. There were still some insect repellent methods, so he made a decisive choice. Take the original seed. Besides Xianying, you also need to buy all the other seeds, such as vegetable seeds, from the shortest growing period of Chinese cabbage to the chili, eggplant, and cucumber that need to be nurtured. All need to be bought well. The seeds sold locally may not be as comprehensive as those available online, but for beginners, they are the most adaptable. So when Song Tan finally bought it and spent over 1,000 yuan, Song Sanqing's heart was drained. Song Tan is still asking. Do you have rice seeds? You need ones with good taste. The boss looked at it and said, yes, this long grain fragrance has a great taste. It can't be bought for 10 yuan per kilogram. Even if the yield is low, the yield per mu is only 1,800 kilograms. Song Tan couldn't help but sigh. Technology is productivity. In the cultivation world, those spiritual valleys without hybrid optimization, she expended all her spiritual energy and only produced 500 to 600 kilograms per mu. How did it sell? The boss also said without hesitation, this seed is expensive, 80 pounds per kilogram, and 2 pounds per acre of land. 4 acres of land and 8 kilograms of seeds, how expensive can they be? Thinking of the fragrant and impurity-free rice, Song Tan's mouth was watering. Yes. 2,000 yuan was spent on buying seeds, and Song Sanqing took a puff of smoke, speaking earnestly. Tan, you can't rush to buy things slowly. Farming land will also be expensive in the future. You need to prepare a lot of money. That cultivator needs to be equipped with additional plows and rakes of different depths. If purchased, these will need to be provided separately. They rent, but they don't have this trouble. But their fields have not been cultivated for many years, and the weeds and trees need to be cleaned up by someone. One person can't miss 150 a day. 7 yuan of land, 10 or so people worked in a day, and 2,000 yuan was gone. If they don't hire anyone, it will waste time and affect their farming. Then we need to burn a fire in the field before we can cultivate the land. After sun drying for 2 days, it can be planted. Don't be fooled by the fact that it's a machine job, their fields here can only be deeply cultivated for up to 5 acres a day. 15 acres would cost 3 days and 1,500 yuan. There will be fertilizers and pesticides in the future. When Song Sanqing thought about the money spent, he felt that his daughter was spending too much money. You planted so many vegetables, do you still need to build a greenhouse for seedling cultivation? Didn't you say you still have to hire people to dig the mountains? What are you planning to do on the mountains? With this calculation, Song Tan also felt a bit numb. Before the construction started, the plan was abandoned for 10,000 yuan. Song Tan made a decisive decision and said, Dad, let's not dig on the mountain for now. I plan to plant black fungus and silver fungus on the mountain, so we can use the oak tree species and fungi on our mountain, so there's no need to clean up. There are many oak trees, also known as chestnut trees, in their local area. This type of wood is sturdy and resistant to fire. Nowadays, Song Tan's family grills this type of wood. Of course, it is also a good material for black fungus and white fungus. But now they all use direct inoculation with bacterial strains, which hasn't appeared for many years. As a result, the price of fungi in tree species has increased. Song Tan vaguely remembered that when he was a child, his family had grown black fungus and silver fungus in this way. As a result, every household planted it, but the promised acquirer did not come. In the end, they had to sun-dry it and store it at home, eating it for several years. Song San is already numb. Plant black fungus and white fungus. Can't we cut down trees and deal with tree trunks? Cutting down tree trunks of appropriate thickness requires drilling holes one by one on top and then stuffing them with bacterial strains. Due to occupying space and low production, it has gradually been phased out by bacterial strains. What Tan Tan said also makes sense. Now, let's take a look at a pure natural and pollution-free mushroom bag. Regardless of whether it is contaminated or not, it just has less flavor than the tree species. Song Sanching sighed. Can you think about it for a moment? Forget it, there are many oak trees planted, and a few hills are crowded, so it's better to chop some down. It's much better than spending money outside. Spend it, spend it. Once the money is spent clean, it becomes invisible. He said in a muffled voice, I'll go ask the seller of bacterial strains. Seeing her father like this, Song Tan felt guilty. Because she also bought a computer and several accessories online last night, and spent $8,000 to ensure efficient post-production editing. But all the flowers have been spent. Song Tan took advantage of the heat and said, Dad, tidy up the pigsty at the door. Let's raise 3 or 4 pigs this year. The food is delicious, and the meat also needs to keep up. Song Sanching was about to jump up and say, You have so much work, you want to exhaust me and your mother. After thinking about how expensive pork is now, I was actually quite moved, so I softened my expression. We can't set up a pigsty at our doorstep now. The village says it affects the aesthetics, and the firewood shed needs to be cleaned up. Regarding tree cutting, there are many mountains in rural areas, and every household has them. The common understanding is that if you cut them down, you have to plant them, so there is no need to worry about cutting them all down. There is scientific guidance and stability regarding the cultivation of fungi in forests. The basswood and silver fungus we are eating now are grown in this way, except that there is no basswood here. Just like using local trees. Regarding plant pictures, I'm afraid you might find it troublesome and didn't include Easter eggs. If you have pictures later, please actively include them in this chapter. If you are interested, click on it and take a look. If you are not interested, don't read it. It won't affect your reading. If you have any other questions, just ask them in the comment section, and I will explain everything that can be answered in this way. In the free period, try to include the main content in the chapters and minimize the word count in the later stages. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Do you raise pigs? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Does pig farming work? When she returned home, it was true that Ulan asked for the money in every detail. Every time Song Tan reported something, the veins on her forehead also jumped. Jumping Song Tan's heart panicked. She doesn't want to be a mommy either, but there's really nothing she can do. At this point, it was necessary to use it to rescue Zhao by besieging Wei. Mom, I want to raise a few pigs. Do you think it's okay? Nowadays, the price of pork has risen and fallen, but regardless of the price, farm pigs are not worried about selling, and it is reasonable to raise them. How many heads? Ulan snorted coldly, feeling that her daughter really didn't touch the spring water with 10 fingers. Pork is expensive now, and holding piglets is also expensive, a few hundred yuan per head. When I come back, I have to set up another stove to cook pig food for them. It's too cold this day, and I have to buy bran, rice bran, corn kernels. Not to mention anything else, that pig will cry when it's hungry. A few pigs are roaring, and they have to build a pigsty. They still feel like there isn't enough work in the field. Song Tan's appearance clearly indicates that he wants to fly before he even walks, which in Ulan's eyes is very unreliable. Besides, I have a wealth of money, not to mention those with hair, I will be sick for the rest of my life. Song Tan is so greedy. She can now practice, not to mention anything else, improving the quality of her food is always possible. Pork may not be so fragrant. She said, Mom, raising pigs at home is safe and delicious. I bought them from outside, but they don't taste as good as when I was a child. Besides, pork is so expensive, and I can still sell some of it by raising it myself. Turn around and kill the pig, stew pig killing vegetables, fry a pot of oil residue, turn around and stew cabbage buns, how fragrant. That's fresh pork, how fragrant it is. As a qualified farmer who has been raising pigs for many years but has only stopped in recent years, Song Sancheng is clearly a bit greedy. At this moment, he completely forgot his refusal and spoke in a tone. Yeah, why don't we keep one head? Song Chiao, who was looking at pink page on his phone, suddenly looked up and said, Mom, you're my pig mom. Sister, can I live with Paige? Ulan quickly took a deep breath. Oh, this silly son, it's so sad. She also thought that in the future, her foolish son would have to spend a lot of money on retirement, and pork is indeed expensive these days. She gritted her teeth. Nurture. The village does not allow pigs to be raised at the entrance. If it's too big, the pigsty can be secretly built behind our house. Our house is only visible when we turn off the road, which does not affect the appearance. The pigsty is smaller, at most 2 ends. How can that be done? The pigsty in rural areas is a small courtyard surrounded in all directions, with a shed set up in the corner and a pond filled with feces. The next step is the small world of pig activity. Their house is a bungalow, and the bedroom window faces the back mountain. If we were to set up a pigsty here, the smell would be absolutely amazing. Song Tan quickly spoke up, make a wire mesh or something, surround a part of the back slope, and raise a few more pigs to run around in the mountains. The destructive power of domestic pigs is not that great, just surround them slightly, and the hillside is enough for them to make trouble. And the back mountain is so close that we can also hear some movement. Now, even Song Sancheng looked at Song Tan with a bewildering gaze. Who raises pigs like this? The white pig running all over the mountain slope, not to mention whether it will fall or break, snakes, insects, mice, ants, etc., just talk about the pig running all over the mountain. How can it gain weight? Don't be a white pig, black pig. Although it's lively and doesn't have much meat, it's more expensive and delicious. Just as he was about to object again, he saw Song Tan grabbing Ulan's hand. Mom, let me give it a try. I really have a plan. Looking at Song Sancheng again, he said, Dad, I've been obedient from childhood to adulthood. Just this time, listen to me, okay? Silence spreads throughout the room. After a while, Song Chiao suddenly whispered, listen to me, okay? Song Tan almost laughed out loud. Ulan also chuckled angrily and said, okay, I have 2 debt collectors. I'll listen to everything you say. Turning his head, he snorted, I'll call and ask what the price is this year. Old Song, go clean up the back mountain. She left, and Song Sancheng added, Tan, raising pigs on the mountain, you need to raise 2 more big dogs to watch, otherwise you won't be able to hold on. It's not just about guarding against weasels, wolves, and wild dogs, but mainly against people. Don't think the village is just peaceful. In earlier years, everyone in the field had cabbage and someone stole it. A few years ago, there was another incident in the neighboring village where a pumpkin caused a conflict and they poisoned several of their neighbors' pigs to death. The main reason for raising a dog is to have a gentle breeze, and they can hear it at home, so be safe. After a moment of silence, Song Tan suddenly asked again, "Dad, we already have dogs and are raising pigs on the mountain. Do you want to stop raising chickens and ducks? The ducks are alone, and it doesn't take much effort for them to go to the pond in front of them every day to play." Song Tan thought to himself, after finally convincing his parents, if this is not done in one go, it will be a bit more troublesome in the future. Song Sanching. How come there are pigs and dogs before these 8 characters are even pronounced? Song Sanching remembered his daughter's enthusiasm for spending money today, and even the 10 yuan Emperor House cigarette in his hand felt expensive. After holding back for a while, he finally sighed. "You're too old, just do whatever you want. While we can still move, we can support you even if we compensate. Just one thing, with your own money and the 60,000 yuan we can get out of it, you're not allowed to borrow money. You can't even borrow a penny." After finishing speaking, he sighed and said, "Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll lose money. Your father and I can't even afford to smoke anymore." Song Tan sighed and said, "It's not easy for me either. Dad, why don't you quit smoking? You can save 100 or 200 yuan a month, and you can save me 2,000 yuan a year." She didn't want Song Sanching to smoke for a long time, but after years of hard work, she couldn't succeed. Not to mention anything else, her grandfather had been smoking for a lifetime and his lung was found to be bad. Should he quit? No. They don't want to smoke, they don't want to die. Her father is the same. Song Sanching felt sorry for his daughter, but this cigarette, he whispered, "I only get half a pack in a day. Sometimes when I get tired from work, even a single puff can make me feel relaxed." When he said these words, Song Tan couldn't do anything about it. But quitting smoking is definitely necessary. Song Tan pondered for a moment and said, "Dad, you can save a little more. A pack of cigarettes every 3 days. This way, 100 yuan per month is suitable. Everything else is easy to say, but this is not enough." Song Sanching's eyes widened and he said, "What's suitable? How can I still use you to raise me? Look at your grandfather, he's smoking dry cigarettes now to save money. Why don't you say that's even more harmful?" Song Tanshin said that these half a pound and 8 taels of yours, regardless of whether they are dry cigarettes or cigarettes, can they still be good things? She kept this in mind, and then went to look for the dim sum she bought in the town. "I'll go see my master's milk. Xiao Xiao, come with me." Song Sanching nodded and said, "Let's go. They're not very energetic now. They're getting old." Then he instructed, "If your mistress gives snacks to Xiao Xiao, please watch carefully and take them. You can eat them, but you can't eat them." Xiao Xiao heard snacks and looked up. "I want to eat." "No way." Song Sanching refused in one gulp, "Your milk is tight, there are new ones every year, and you eat old ones every year. The ones you gave last time have expired for more than half a year, so you can't eat them. I spend a lot of time searching for pictures every day. By the way, now a free chapter of Help is posted in the comments every day. Remember to go and watch it. Due to copyright issues, the updated Harry Potter fan has been changed to Amazing Magic. Don't miss it. Also, can I leave next month's recommended banknotes for Song Tan? It will be available in August, depending on the editor's schedule. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 10 Big White Goose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Big White Goose. Song Tan's grandfather, Song Yud, is an authentic old farmer who is 79 years old this year. He has a lung problem and is prone to wheezing, so he hasn't worked much in the past few years. In addition to tidying up the vegetable garden, I also play leaf cards with a group of old men in the village on a daily basis. Holding an old smoking gun, it is rare to see it from all over the country. Every year, people come to ask for the old tobacco oil from the tobacco stick to treat sores. Grandma Wang Lifen, on the other hand, has strong legs and excellent body, and is also skilled at cooking. Nowadays, the vegetable garden at home is still tidy, and every year, villagers come to her to replace the seedlings. It can be regarded as the pillar of the old Song family. Song Tan walked out of the yard, bypassing a vegetable garden, and saw an old red brick house standing at the foot of the mountain. The courtyard at the entrance was paved with cement, and there was only a osmanthus tree in the corner of the yard. Under the tree, there were several chickens basking in the sun and digging sand. At the entrance of the courtyard, there is a super fierce big white goose. I was originally squatting in the corner of the door, but now when I saw someone coming, a cluster of goose yellow on my head shook instantly, very eye-catching. It stared with round little eyes, now, quack quack quack, and spread its wings in front of it, swaying and charging towards it. Behind him, Song Qiao quickly opened his arms and rushed forward, shouting, "Ga gotta buy, I'm coming." Then skillfully squat down. I hugged Big White Goose and the other two well. "You wrap your arms around my long neck, and I wrap my wings around your back, that's a deep emotion." Song Tan. She couldn't even make an evaluation of this relationship between humans and nature for a moment. Grandma Wang Lifen just came out of the kitchen and was very happy to see Song Tan. "When did Tan Tan come back?" Looking at Song Qiao again, "Qiao Qiao, don't ask to buy to dirty your sweater." Qiao Qiao looked up at her and said, "Ga." The clever little head of the big white goose also lifted up and responded, "Ga." Wang Lifen laughed heartily and said, "This child. Has Tan Tan eaten yet? Grandma will bring you cookies." Song Tan quickly went over and said, "I only came back last night. I went out on the street this morning and haven't eaten yet." Upon hearing this, Wang Lifen's footsteps quickened and she said, "Then I'll get you more food." What Song Tan wants is this effect. Since everything has expired, of course it should be dealt with as soon as possible. She looked around the yard and saw that her grandparents were diligent and tidy. The house was clean and tidy, except for a few chickens in the corner of the yard, there was no dirt or disorder at all. At this moment, her mind moved and she squatted down, condensing a ball of rice grain-sized spiritual energy from her fingertips. With just a blink of an eye, Qiao Qiao's good brother immediately threw him down, spread his wings, and, quack, quickly rushed over. The flat soles of the feet were pounding on the cement floor, and the yellow hat with its small head stretched forward was so eager. Not only the big white goose, but also the 5 chickens squatting in the dirt pit basking in the sun were crazy. At this moment, they spread their legs and ran towards Song Tan. The shiny neck hair of the leading big rooster exploded, and the red crown trembled, creating a fighting atmosphere after cooking. For a moment, Qiao Qiao opened his mouth in surprise. Song Tan's heart is not good. She knows that cultivating land and raising animals with spiritual energy is particularly good, but she didn't expect it to be so attractive here. "If you pounce on me, I can't take this clothes anymore." At this moment, I quickly stopped, but the group rushing towards me couldn't stop. At this moment, she could only feel a cool breeze howling in the back of her head, and the big broom swept across her head without hesitation. She could even sense the dust falling from the broom. The brave broom caused the rushing chickens and geese to roar and scatter in the yard, which was considered calmness. Wang Lifen took a breath and said, "I just chopped the cabbage and fed it to them. How could I be so crazy?" She also felt heartbroken and said, "I'm scared. Maybe I won't be laying eggs these days." Song Tan feels a bit guilty. But Wang Lifen just nagged a few words. At this moment, seeing her increasingly fair and beautiful granddaughter, and then looking at Qiao Qiao, her heart was filled with only joy. Come on, this is the biscuit your aunt bought for me. Eat more." Probably afraid that the child wouldn't have enough to eat, I directly packed half of the bag in a plastic bag. Song Tan pondered. At this moment, Grandma's inventory hasn't cleared 80%, so she needs to have half of it. Xiao Qiao was overjoyed as he was about to open the bag, but Song Tan didn't stop him. He just held the plastic bag in his hand and gave Song Qiao a small biscuit. Xiao Qiao, give your big goose brother a try. The black code for the shelf life is particularly eye-catching, indicating that it expired in September last year. Xiao Qiao happily responded, okay. Both siblings, intentionally and unintentionally, ignored the heartache on Wang Lifen's face. Her grandson was foolish, and Wang Lifen couldn't help but feel sorry for the cookies. Now she only looked at Song Tan. Slimming down a bit, how are you doing working in the province? How many days are you coming back to stay this time? Song Tan didn't hide it from her, but he had to use some spring and autumn writing techniques. Grandma, I'm coming back to take care of my body this time. Maybe I'll take some more rest. Come and help me grow vegetables then. So Wang Lifen understood. Isn't it just that her granddaughter wants to stay at home and play for a while, like growing vegetables? What can young people do now? Just a fresh picture. She laughed loudly and said, oh, my granddaughter is growing vegetables. I'll definitely go help you. Of course, in a few days, she will be speechless. Song Tan looked left and right and said, where's my grandfather? Wang Lifen thought for a moment and said, probably playing cards with people at the village square. His leaf cards are no longer played, so it's not easy to gather enough people. A group of trembling old men, playing $1 a day, dozing off every time they play a card. Wang Lifen was so happy that he went out to play alone. She didn't have to pick and choose at home, she said with a disdainful expression towards the old man. In fact, the old couple have been together for decades. When Song Yud was 7 or 8 years old and herding cows for the landlord's family, they met each other and had a deep emotional connection. Song Tan strolled around and saw Xiao Qiao squatting there and greeting Big White Goose, saying, Big White, how about you have a big piece? Sweet. This is a milk biscuit. I'll have a small piece. Song Tan didn't pay attention and took a bite. Song Tan. Forget it, this proficiency shouldn't be the first time I've tasted it. Looking down and flipping through the plastic bag, there was a bag of all kinds of cookies and candies, without exception, all of which had a shelf life until last year. There is also a pack of oatmeal biscuits, which are precious and have a shelf life of 2 years ago. Song Tan flipped it out and remained silent for a long time. Now even the goose dared not feed it. However, she did indeed take a liking to that big white goose. So capable, bold, and sharp. When she activated her spiritual energy, this goose was farthest away, but its reaction was the fastest. He is a skilled housekeeper and caregiver. After the household pigsty is easily repaired, let's borrow it from my grandmother to make pigs and geese. What does the poem say when paired with 2 yellow dogs? Left pulling yellow, right lifting song means that goose, this kind of creature, is rarely raised by the villagers purely because it eats too much and barks loudly. Its loud voice can be heard even when flipping over the mountain, which is truly disturbing to the people. End of this chapter.